In Palestine, over 80 people were killed in a new attack by Israeli forces on Al-Aqsa Hospital Square in the city of Deir al-Balah. In Argentina, voting continues in the nation's general elections. Electoral authorities report a 29.6% turnout so far. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced that he will visit China next November. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. At least 80 people were killed on Saturday after a new attack by Israeli forces on Al-Aqsa Hospital Square in the city of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. The authorities of the Martyrs of Al-Aqsa Hospital confirmed the reception of 80 bodies and affirmed that in the last 24 hours they received at least 143 lifeless bodies and more than 260 wounded coming from the southern Gaza. On the other hand, the Gaza government press office reported that Israel caused the death of at least 266 people in the last hours, including 117 children, only in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. More than 35,000 Palestinian refugees are being moved to a tent shelter in the city of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The move came after the Israeli army ordered civilians in the northern half of the besieged Gaza Strip to move south last week. Since then, thousands of families, mostly evacuated from refugee camps in Jabalia and Beit Lahia in northern Gaza, have no access to fuel, electricity or internet, while canned food parcels are delivered every few days. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, more than 1.5 million people have been displaced as a result of continued Israeli attacks on residential areas. The group Hamas has offered to release 2 more women prisoners on Sunday, following the same procedures as with the 2 recently liberated U.S. hostages. The spokesman for the Hamas armed wing, the Al-Aqsa brigades, Abu Obeida, said he had previously proposed the release of the 2 women for compelling humanitarian reasons and without asking for anything in return, but Israel refused to receive, while relatives of the captured Israelis were demanding the immediate release of the hostages. On the other hand, the Palestinian militias in Gaza are demanding a ceasefire against the civilian population of Gaza and the release of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for the Israelis taken hostage. Iran's foreign minister warns Israel and its ally, the United States, that the Middle East risks spiraling out of control as a result of Israel's conflict with Hamas.
Today, the region is like a flashpoint. Any miscalculation in the pursuit of this warmongering genocide massacre and forced displacement of the residents of Gaza and the West Bank could lead to heavy, bitter, and far-reaching consequences in the region, which could also work against the interests of the warmongers. I would like to warn the United States and the Israeli regime that if they do not immediately stop the crime against humanity and genocide in Gaza, anything is possible at any moment, and the region will go out of control. The consequences will fall on the perpetrators and those responsible for this war.
This Sunday, thousands of people participated in a pro-Palestinian demonstration in Kuala Lumpur's Independence Square. The demonstration was run by local non-profits organizations, and officials said it was intended to show discontent over Western support for Israel. During the protest, demonstrators waved banners and flags as they sang in support of the Palestinians amid the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. The protest was one of many held around the world this weekend. A second convoy of humanitarian aid arrived in Gaza. The Rafah border crossing, which connects Egypt to the Gaza Strip, opened today to allow the entry of 17 trucks of humanitarian aid. Egyptian television Al Qahira News broadcast live the entry of these vehicles through Rafah into Gaza. This claimed that there are 3 trucks from the Egyptian Red Crescent, which is leading this aid delivery alongside its Palestinian counterpart inside the convoy. Several of the volunteers gathered around the gate to cheer the drivers as they raised the Egyptian flag, according to network images, which showed that the trucks still continue to enter the convoy. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East demanded that Israel stop targeting places such as schools, hospitals, and residential areas. In a statement, the UN agency recalled that the protection of civilians in times of conflict is not an aspiration or an ideal, but rather an obligation and a commitment to humanity, which is non-negotiable. They also stressed that the legal obligations include refraining from targeting civilian facilities, including schools, hospitals, places of worship, and civilian homes. 5 other UN agencies, including the United Nations Development Programme, the United Nations Children's Fund, among others, urged the world to do more for Gaza in the midst of its desperate humanitarian situation. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In Argentina, the National Electoral Chamber reported that 29.6% of the electoral roll has voted so far. Over 35 million citizens are called to participate in the elections that will define the president and vice president of the South American country. Voters also elect 130 members of Congress, 24 members of the Senate, 43 representatives of Mercosur Parliament, and the governors of the provinces of Buenos Aires, Catamarca, Entre Rios, and Santa Cruz. The elections are considered decisive for the future of Argentina, facing a difficult economic situation due to the debt with the IMF contracted by the government of Mauricio Macri, the rise of inflation, and poverty.
I don't have much hope, but we have to exercise the vote for a civic duty. It is a day of two emotions. On one hand, happy to exercise the democratic vote with joy, and on the other hand, the candidates do not help. I do not have much hope in them.
I hope that the people will decide on a suitable person to carry out the national policy. Of the options available, we vote for the most suitable according to personal criteria and convenience. Let's hope for a good result for everyone.
Argentine President Alberto Fernandez stressed that he has worked together to achieve peaceful and calm elections.
What I can only say is that I have followed the campaign very closely. Obviously, I am absolutely involved and interested in how the campaign evolves. It seems to me that we have done everything in union so that this electoral process develops in peace and calm, that everyone can express themselves, that everyone can say what they wanted to say, and the rest is done by democracy. We are in a democracy, and what is resolved by the people is what is resolved by the people.
Presidential candidate Miriam Bregman of the Left Front called on citizens to vote according to their convictions and without fear.
Expectations will be seen. I believe that the most important thing is that today, what is most important is that everyone votes according to their convictions, without paying attention to campaigns all the time. Neither individual savers nor voting with fear. You have to vote with the values you have, with the fights you fight every day. And I think the left has always shown all these years which side is on.
The governor of the province of Buenos Aires, Axel, Kicillof, highlighted that turnout in the territory is progressing normally.
The forecasts were predicting rain, but I was already doing a survey all over the province, and so far so good. The turnout has been good. The opening of the polls has been good. So everything is normal, and that is very good. We hope to have a peaceful day without any doubt. So that's why we were working very hard in the days before. We hope everyone can go to vote in peace, and as I was saying just now, expressing what they feel and what they hope for their future and for the future of others.
Presidential candidate Juan Schiaretti called on voters to choose those who already have management experience to make Argentina a normal country.
I hope that what is being defined today is what Argentina we're going to have in the future. If we continue in an Argentina that continues to stagger, that is not a normal country, where the last governments of Kirchnerismo and Macrismo, whose candidacy are expressed by Sergio Massa and Patricia Bullrich, have already failed. or if we go on a trip to the unknown, which is what Milei's candidacy represents. Because I have never seen that what Milei is proposing is implemented in any part of the world. Or, if on the contrary we take the path of production and work, the path of federalism, we have experience in management and we are the ones who are going to make a normal country.
Voting for Argentinians abroad also moved forward. Argentinians residents in Wellington, capital of New Zealand, inaugurated the voting day by going to the country's consular office to cast their vote, while in Australia they did the same in the city of Sydney. 451,200 citizens are eligible to vote abroad, and for this purpose the Foreign Ministry set up 302 polling stations in 137 diplomatic missions in 86 countries. The United States with more than 90,000 registered voters, Spain with more than 85,000 and Brazil with more than 20,000 are the countries with the highest number of Argentines registered to vote abroad. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced that he will visit China next November. The Prime Minister said China agreed on Saturday to review the import taxes on Australian wine. He also stated that although his attention is currently focused on the U.S. visit, Australia is interested in good relations with China. During the visit, the official is expected to meet in Beijing with his Chinese counterpart Li Qiang and President Xi Jinping.
It is important that we stabilise our relationship with China. That is in the interests of Australia and China, and it is indeed in the interests of the world that we have stable relations, and that is what this visit will represent. A win-win. Australia gets to export our wine. Importantly, China gets to receive this amazing product. It's in Australia's interest to have good relations with China, and certainly though my focus the coming days will be very much on the visit to the United States with Australia's closest partner, talking about the future of our alliance, a future which has been upgraded by the AUKUS arrangements, a future based upon our common values, our commitment to democracy, and our commitment to the international rule of law and stable order throughout the globe. That is what we want to see. Thank you very much. Thank you.
In Switzerland, vote counting is underway in Sunday's parliamentary elections, with polls pointing to a rebound for right-wing populist and socialist parties, while Greens are expected to lose ground compared to the last such election 4 years ago. The election of the 200-seat lower house, known as the National Council, and the 46-seat Council of States, the upper house, will set the tone for Swiss policy as the Alpine country adapts its self-image as a neutral country outside the European Union and grapples with issues like climate change, rising healthcare costs, and migration. The parliamentary vote is one of the two main ways that Switzerland's 8.5 million people guide their country. Another is through regular referendums which set guideposts that Parliament must follow as it drafts and passes legislation.
Effectively, there is the rise of the cost of life, and as a retreat, it's not easy, so I count on everyone who is on my list. I think this is decisive and concerning because there is really an emergency. We know this since so many years now. Thus, I can understand that when there are other problems, people say to themselves that the planets come second. But in fact, I don't believe it. I believe if there is no planet, ultimately, those issues come seconds. So, for me, that's the priority for these elections.
On Sunday, a China Coast Guard spokesman said China's maneuvers on the Philippine vessel's intrusion into the adjacent waters of the Renai Reef in China's Nansha Islands are reasonable, lawful, and professional. The spokesman added that the Philippines insisted on sending 2 transport ships and 2 Coast Guard vessels into the disputed waters without permission in disregard of China's repeated dissuasion and warnings in an attempt to illegally deliver construction materials to the Philippine Navy warship that had been illegally grounded at the Renai Reef. According to the spokesman, the Philippine vessels approached the CCG vessels in an unsafe manner in disregard of the stern warnings of the Chinese side and caused a slight collision. The Russian army thwarted 2 attempts of rotation of infantry groups of the Ukrainian forces in the south of Donetsk. Oleg Chechov, spokesman of the Eastern Troop Grouping, who formed a reconnaissance group of the Ukrainian armed formations, was also neutralized with the use of artillery fire. Russian armed forces carried out air and artillery strikes on Ukrainian troops' positions. We have come to the end of this news brief, and you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. With TeleSUR English, I'm Alberto. Thank you for watching.